What's up? My name is Jason Morris. Congratulations on your new PK Ripper Super Elite. Let's get this thing built up so you can hit the track.
We always recommend that an experienced bicycle mechanic assemble your bike, but if you take your time, you should be able to finish the job yourself. Your bike box may be sealed with glue, staples, or both. If yours came with staples, safely remove them with pliers and then throw the staples in the trash so they're out of your way. Remove the bike from the box. Ask a friend if you need help. The seat and parts box will be included in the bike box as well. Remove the packing material around the bike and use wire cutters or scissors to carefully cut any zip ties. Now it's time for the seat and post. Take a small dab of grease and wipe it around on the inside of the seat tube. Look at the sides of the seat post for a line indicating its minimum insertion point. Be sure that the post is inserted into the frame to that level or further. Align the seat so that it runs parallel to the frame's top tube, and then tighten the seat clamp by pressing the lever back towards the frame until it's fully closed. If the seat clamp doesn't hold the post securely, open the clamp, tighten the nut opposite of the lever, and then re-engage the lever. It may take a few adjustments to get the seat clamp in the right position. Remove the 4 bolts from the top of the stem using an Allen wrench. Also remove the 2 pinch bolts on the side of the stem. Add a small dab of grease to the thread on each bolt before reinstalling them. Grease is super important, so don't skip this step. Place the handlebar onto the stem while making sure it's facing the right direction. Make sure that the clamping area of the handlebar is centered in the stem. Raise the handlebars into position while making sure the clamping area stays centered within the stem. Evenly tighten the grease bolts with an Allen wrench using a cross pattern to distribute pressure evenly. For the front to back angle of the handlebars, roughly align them with the forks. You can fine-tune the angles to your preference later. Turn the bike upside down. Remove the spacer in the fork dropouts. You will need to remove the through axle on the front wheel before attaching the wheel to the forks. Remove the axle nut and washers from one side of the wheel. Then slide the axle out of the opposite side of the hub. Next, remove the remaining axle nut and washers from the axle. Add a dab of grease to the threads on both sides of the axle. Then reinstall the washers and axle nut on one side of the axle. Check that the front wheel is facing the correct direction. There are directional arrows on the tire sidewall that point forward. Slide the front wheel in between the fork dropouts and insert the through axle. There is a cylindrical spacer on the inside of the hub that you'll need to align for the axle to slide through. Reinstall the washers and axle nut. If you forgot to add grease, now is the time to add it. To tighten the axle, use a wrench or socket to hold one of the axle nuts in place while using another socket or wrench to tighten the opposite side. Now get the pedals out of the parts box. You can identify the right and left pedals by the L and R printed on the inside of the pedals. Add a dab of grease to the threads. Attach the pedals using your hand to turn the spindle towards the front of the bike. When you're sure that the threads are seated properly, use a 15mm wrench to tighten each pedal. On the brake lever, align the slots in the barrel adjuster and lock washer. Then insert the cable end into the hole on the bottom of the brake lever. Once the cable end is inserted properly, slide the cable into the lever and barrel adjuster slots. You can now rotate the barrel adjuster as needed. The compression bolt on the top of the stem is used to tighten or loosen the headset if needed. The stem's pinch bolts need to be loose to make these adjustments. The headset should turn freely and there should be no side-to-side play. Once you've adjusted the compression bolt, make sure the handlebars and front wheel are aligned. and then securely tighten the pinch bolts on the side of the stem. Your brakes have been adjusted at the factory. Fine-tuning and centering adjustments can be performed using the spring tension screws on the brake arms. You can also adjust the brake pads to make sure they are centered and towed properly. However, we recommend that someone with experience perform any brake adjustments. To adjust the angle of the seat on the post, insert a 6mm Allen wrench into the opening on the top of the seat. When the wrench engages in the internal Allen bolt head, loosen the bolt to adjust the angle, and then tighten the Allen bolt to lock the seat into place. This is a good time to fine-tune the front to back angle of the handlebars. Loosen the stem bolts enough to move the bars to your preferred position, then tighten the bolts using a cross pattern. Your bike's chain tensioners have been adjusted at the factory. If you need to make adjustments, loosen the axle nut and then turn the adjustment nut with a wrench to achieve the correct tension. Be sure the rear wheel stays centered when making any adjustments. Check that the bolts on your cranks and sprocket are all tight. Applying grease to these bolts is also recommended. Both tires will need air. Use a pump to inflate them using the PSI guide on the tire sidewall. Don't use higher or lower air pressure than what's printed on the tire, because using too much or too little can damage your tire and rim. You're almost ready to go shred, but before you start riding, go over every nut and bolt on the bike one more time to make sure that they are all secure. For optimal performance, some riders take extra steps during assembly, including tightening spokes and greasing bearings. We'll cover these steps in another video. Now add the included safety items and go ride.